Hey, it's Alicia from mobilitymastery.com, and I have a rather personal question for you. How do you do conflict? Because I got something to share today. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I think it's right. I think it's true. And I'm inviting you to try it on with me. And that is the idea that how you do conflict is how you do healing. If there's something to heal, it implies conflict of some kind, right? Something, where there was coherence is now like in, disconnection, or there's not coherence. And obviously the easy example to look at here is conflict between people in your life. So, but we're going to extrapolate that to how you do healing with your body. So I have on here, these are just a few things that immediately came to my mind that could come up when conflict arises. And it's really individual and really personal to us. So this is just meant to kind of prompt you and get you thinking about this in relationship to your own life. So first I want you to just think about how do you do conflict? We're going to go back, tie it back to the body and healing in the second half of this video, but I really want you to just get thinking about how you do conflict and be as honest as you can be if your goal is to get better at healing, because the better you get at conflict, the better you're going to get at healing. I'm convinced of it. So there are a lot of ways that we engage in conflict that's unhealthy, maybe. And it's not coming from a bad place. It's coming from a place of self-protection, unconsciousness, not knowing any better, having nobody ever taught us probably how to do conflict well. If you're anything like me, it wasn't modeled for you. In fact, you might have had something modeled when you were young by your family, by your parents, that wasn't very healthy at all. So ways that we might engage in conflict that are unhealthy are here. So one of my major patterns has been self-betrayal. That's one of my go-tos for engaging in conflict in a way that helps me feel safest. What does that mean? It means that in really big, but then a lot of small, nuanced ways, I betray myself through letting my own, boundaries get violated, by doing things I don't really want to do, by not advocating for my own needs, my own wants, my desires, and what's not okay with me, in order to maintain connection. So if a conflict arises for me, I'm much more likely to allow someone else to tell me what's not okay with them. I'm really good at that. I can sit and listen and not get defensive and let somebody kind of dump on me or tell me what is not okay with them in our relationship, or perhaps even between that person and another person in our either family unit or community, and listen and get curious with them and be open. But then I take it on, and I'm actually not necessarily looking inside at how, where am I in that relationship dynamic in that moment, right? So that's been one of my big go-tos, and I'm going to talk about that in relation to my body when we get to the second half of this video, just as an example for you to think about. But there are other ways that you might engage in conflict, or the avoidance of conflict. So that's the other thing that I would definitely bring up here is, is your way of dealing with or engaging with conflict to actually avoid it at all costs? Because if that's true, that's definitely going to impact how you're able to heal, because you'll put off listening to your body until there's an emergency. So I don't want you to shame yourself. That's not the point of this video. The point is to create more consciousness around how these kind of seemingly separate parts of our lives are actually very connected and mirroring one another. So the better you get at doing conflict, the better you will get at self-healing. The better you get at self-healing, which we're going to talk about, like I said, the better you'll get at conflict. So they can go there. It's a reciprocal relationship there. Maybe you're somebody who prefers delusion. instead of self-betrayal. So delusion would maybe look like, oh, it's not that bad. Or, if I, like, it's better to just stay quiet and not say anything at all, because then, we'll stay connected and I won't have to make them uncomfortable with my feelings and it'll pass, right? But this really is self-delusion, because it's probably not going to pass, by not speaking up and thinking that things are going better than they are, thinking you're maybe advocating for yourself when you really aren't, or any other form of self-delusion, really isn't going to serve you in the long run. So that's why it's called self-delusion. If your go-to is defensiveness when somebody brings you hurt or pain or impact in the relationship, they bring you a conflict. If your go-to is defensiveness, then chances are pretty good that's what's going to happen with you and your body. If you're just immediately reactive and defensive and kind of pushing it back, that's probably going to show up in your relationship with your body as well. If you always need to be right, that's me. This can definitely impact how you do conflict, because, you're not probably going to be very open to listening to other people and perspectives that are different than yours. And your body probably has a different perspective about what should be happening for you to be healthy than you do. So if you need to always be right and your body is trying to get your attention, right, then you're in conflict and not moving forward. Other ways, might be to ignore conflict or numb yourself from it. We could victimize ourselves when conflict arises, in this can show up in so many ways, right? But it might be like a story that you tell yourself about how you're always treated a certain way, or that this always happens, or whatever. Another way would be, maybe going back to my story of self-betrayal. If you're really good at welcoming feedback, which I'm going to talk about over here in just a second, but if you're really good at welcoming feedback from other people, but then you kind of hold on to it and you don't actually, engage in the reciprocal, which is to offer feedback, that can, I believe, impact your healing. And I think self-betrayal, the need to be right, and holding on are like my top three strategies or tactics that I use here that have impeded my healing, honestly, and have been learning lessons for me when it comes to healing that I can apply to the rest of my life, and vice versa. If you feel the need to explain, instead of really being with the pain, being with the conflict, hearing someone else, feeling what you feel and stating how you feel, that can be a way of engaging. How would that show up in your body? Well, you might start explaining to yourself why you feel the way you do in order to actually justify staying exactly where you are instead of actively healing. And then lastly, I put alone. If you isolate yourself and do conflict alone, meaning in your own mind, so you make stories up about the other person that you never bring to them, you project onto them your idea or imaginations of what is happening over there, but you don't actually talk to them, and then you maybe clean it up inside of yourself and you go, and this is actually something I've done, well, they probably couldn't help it, when they did that to me, because, when they were growing up, they weren't taught any better, and, so I'm going to forgive them. But you keep it to yourself. You isolate yourself. You're alone with the conflict and resolution. You rob the relationship between you and other people, but also, if you're doing this, you and your body, you rob the relationship of what can happen when you do conflict and healing together. So that brings us to this other side, and ways we can do conflict that lead to better health, more vitality in our relationships and with our body. So to me, the you and your body is a relationship. It's not just there's you and then there's your body, or there's you and that includes your body. To me, they're actually somewhat separate, very connected, but not the same thing. There's your mind, there's your, ability to be objective and have kind of like a witness consciousness to your own experience of your thoughts, right? Your emotions, your feelings, your sensations, and then there's your body. and what your body's trying to say and your body's needs that maybe you ignore, right? Until it really gets your attention with some kind of conflict or pain. So ways we can cultivate healthy conflict skills. Be open. Be open to feeling what you feel. Be open to other people's feelings. Let your feedback channels be open, right? So open feedback channels between you and your body, between you and other people. Consciously cultivating that openness is a really good idea rather than just saying, well, I'm open, but not actually putting it into practice. Like, for example, if you tell a partner, you know what, I'm really open to your feedback and anything you ever want to bring me, like I'm cool with conflict, but you never ever actually like cultivate that openness, chances are it's just gonna sit there and like not really happen. So I do think it's a practice, right, of turning towards each other, turning towards a partner in your life or a family member or whatever, a friend, turning towards your body and actually like communicating the openness and then allowing the messages to come through and engaging with open dialogue, open communication on a consistent basis. So it doesn't just mean you are open, you're actually engaging with what comes through the openness, right? Being curious is a superpower. It is honestly, I think, like the number one skill we can cultivate that will lead to healthier relationships in our lives and the one with our body. If you can cultivate the capacity to get curious about other people, genuinely curious, about their feelings towards you, about the impact you've had on them, about, certain aspects of their inner life, and then your relationship. And then if you can do this with your body, this one here could open the doors to all the rest and like obliterate all these. So I think that getting curious is an amazing superpower that we should all be cultivating here. That means asking good questions, being open to what comes when you ask the question instead of, maybe you ask a question thinking like, cool, I'm going to cultivate curiosity. And then the answer that comes from the person or your body instantly puts you in delusion or defensiveness or the need to be right, then you're not totally engaging with it in a really open way. And I just have to say, this is a practice. So it's not about perfection. It's okay to get messy. It's okay to mess up and then try again. When we are curious and open, we can evolve. We can evolve our relationships because guess what? We are all evolving all the time. Even if we aren't consciously doing so, intentionally doing so, it is happening. If you have a practice of stuffing stuff down, of numbing, of not looking at your feelings or your sensations in your body, something will get your attention eventually and you probably really won't like it. Like what would have been a minor conflict at one time in your life will now turn into like a monstrous conflict, whether it's divorce or, an affair or any number of ways that in relationships, right, it can seemingly come out of nowhere if you let those little conflicts build and build under the surface and you don't actually like welcome what's there. It can turn into a much bigger thing. Same with your body. If you don't welcome the small messages of sensation and actually prevent injury, then you're likely to encounter a major injury that sets you back. Being responsive, so responsibility, being responsive rather than reactive. So responding to your body, responding to another human being is really different than reacting to what they're saying. An example I could give you of that would be, I'm climbing a mountain, my knee suddenly starts giving me pain. If I go into reactivity, I'm going to be like, no, this can't be happening again. God, I thought I, fixed this. Like I'm so annoyed. I want to be out here climbing a mountain. I don't want to deal with this pain right now, right? Or why do you have to do that to me, body? Victimize. Responsive is, oh, okay, we've got some knee pain right now. This sucks. I don't like it, but my body's trying to tell me something. Let me see if I can figure out what that is. Because maybe I could even figure out how to give it what it needs on the trail right now so I can climb down this mountain pain-free. And I have had that experience multiple times, not just with myself, but other people. It's really, really cool what can happen when you're responsive instead of reactive, not only in your life, but your relationships, but with your body. And then there's welcoming feedback and then offering feedback. And I think that these two are critical. And I think like if you are only ever welcoming feedback, but you're never offering feedback, you can enter kind of like an unhealthy dynamic of holding on maybe, or feeling alone, doing it alone. So you want to welcome feedback from your body or from your relationships, but you also want to offer feedback. You want to participate in the relationship, right? So I would ask yourself if you are always the one people come to and kind of dump on, or you're the safe person to bring feelings to, but you never find safety in other people to bring your feelings to in conflict. That has been, a pattern of mine for a long time, and it's something I'm working on right now. Being willing to let go of, or cultivating the skill of letting go. This is a big one, right? If we hold on to our, like certain things and we are unwilling to let go, that can definitely impact our relationships as well as our health. If you are willing to cultivate the capacity to go on the offensive instead of being defensive, then if you do it in a healthy way, you're proactively avoiding catastrophe by offensively looking for ways to address conflict as soon as it arises, right? Or something happening in your body as soon as it arises. And the ability to be objective is really critical as well, I think. Objectivity allows us to get curious. It allows us to welcome feedback and offer feedback in a way that's usually going to be welcomed, right? We can be more receptive when we're objective instead of super subjective. And then finally, if you're willing to do all these, you get to actually heal together. You and your body get to do something together rather than your body doing something to you, giving you pain, and then you doing something to it to stop the pain. It's not, that's not really a reciprocal relationship. And it's a really powerful experience to actually get to know your body so well and open these feedback channels and do all these things with your body or with other people, or even one other person, and have the experience of doing it together. It's bonding, it's powerful, it's empowering, and you'll never be the same, promise. So there you go. How you do conflict is how you do healing. So I kind of interwove some of the body things here so you could understand what I'm talking about. But I definitely encourage you to look at this list over here and see if, any of these are showing up in how you do conflict, or if you're avoiding conflict altogether, right? Because that's definitely what a lot of people will do. And then look at what you can do over here. Now, I want to kind of turn this around exclusively to the body, since that's mostly what this channel is about. And the example I would like to give you in my life is a recent one. So there have been many, but this is just the most recent one. It's top of mind for me right now as we're filming this particular video. It's, getting towards the end of 2019, and I'm still healing mercury poisoning, and I've also been kind of going through a different iteration of conflict with my family, wherein I stopped talking to them currently. And the thing that I'm kind of really looking at, that I've been looking at the past few weeks or months, as this has kind of come into my consciousness, is for me, the self-betrayal piece. And so for me, it was like, it wasn't even really about them per se, my family, or doing relationship in a certain way. It was like, I'm unwilling to betray myself anymore, and because of that, I have to set this hard boundary, because I've spent 20 years trying to engage in a way that felt good to me, and it was unsuccessful. So after 20 years, I'm giving myself permission to let go of that that kind of conflict, I guess you could say. And I'm stepping back and honoring myself and my boundaries. So that actually felt really powerful, and it's been helping me heal from mercury poisoning, I believe. How? Well, I think that I have had a pattern of waiting for other people to meet me before I allowed myself to heal. Whew, I've never said that out loud before. Yeah, so even with my body, for example, I went to one naturopath and didn't feel met. So I went to another naturopath and didn't feel met. And then I sought out a famous YouTuber who's very, very expensive, $750 an hour, and did not feel met. And it was finally in that last one that it really kind of occurred to me, like, why am I waiting for somebody else to meet me before I tune into my own wisdom and decide to let go of this toxicity? So I think it feels sad. It's still like a thing for me that I'm not sure I've fully resolved. I'm still kind of in it because I believe we heal better together. And I was kind of betraying my body by ignoring the wisdom that was coming through here, because it was trying to get my attention. Like, my body was actually saying, excuse me, hi, I know what you could do right now to help yourself. And I was going, yeah, I know you know some things, but you don't know everything. And I'm going to wait till I find someone else out there who can meet me, because that will feel really healing. So I projected onto other people, professionals, a pattern from my past that got created with my family of waiting for them to meet me to really heal. And I definitely stopped doing that on an emotional level at age 33. But I spent from 24 to 33 trying in as many ways as I could, very unskillfully at times, I have to own, and I forgive myself. I did the best I could. I didn't know any better, to get my family to meet me, and in healing my trauma in particular, just so I'm clear. And when it didn't happen, I would just retreat back inside myself. I would be with it alone. I would, think about, how right, I am, and that I want them to conform to my idea of how our family should be doing this. And recently I just said, I need to take ownership of what feels really right to me. And right now that's actually just saying no to all that, saying yes to what's here, and saying yes to the people in my life who can meet me, because I do have people who are meeting me. So rather than putting my focus on changing the ones who aren't meeting me. You following? Because I think a lot of us do this. We will ignore what's going well, or ignore what we know is an easier path, right? Like people who are meeting us, people who can do conflict with us in a certain way. It's not as inviting as the temptation to engage in an old way and want it to change, want it to be different. So I'm experiencing a profound physical shift since doing these things, since deciding to stop betraying myself, stop, isolating, by actually speaking my boundary, I felt less alone in it. It was like, wow, finally I'm like speaking what's really on my mind and what feels really true to me to other human beings. Even if it means we're not talking right now, I actually am not carrying it alone. And even though we're not healing together, I have spoken my truth. So the other piece that I would say is that offering feedback piece for me has been present. So I've been trying to offer feedback to the naturopaths that I've been going to. They have not been receptive. And that's okay, because I am stepping into that part of myself, that muscle. I'm exercising that muscle of offering feedback. And I know that by continuing to do so, I'm going to find the right people who will meet me. But if I continue to hold back until I find someone who can meet me, it's probably unlikely that that will occur. So I hope that makes sense. And I definitely think that this goes for pain relief as well as, something like mercury toxicity, which I've been dealing with. So if you're currently in a conflict with your body, then I encourage you to adopt hopefully all of these. But if this is like really new to you, this idea is like, maybe overwhelming or not something you've actually taken up as a practice to do conflict, then I encourage you to just pick one or two practices to start. And here's the thing. You could do this with your body, and it will likely translate into how you start behaving in your relationships when conflict is there. Or you could do it in your relationships, and it'll likely show up in your relationship with your body, where healing is concerned. So I have a challenge for you. Honestly assess which of these you ignore or don't do as well. Are you constantly obsessed with your body, focused on your body, trying to heal, doing, like taking the supplements and doing the things and releasing your fascia and, like searching, and like really obsessively kind of being with the physical part of you in an attempt to heal? If so, and you're not so much doing conflict in your relationships, go to the relationships. It's out of balance. So I believe nature has her checks and balances with us, and our body might actually kick us back onto ourselves to change something in our life before the body will actually change for us. So if you've been obsessively going in, I would go out, turn your attention outward, go engage with other humans in new ways and watch your body change. And if it's been the other way around and you have been obsessively maybe more outwardly focused, more relationship focused, more other human focused, even if you don't do conflict super well, because I'm not saying just because you're outer focused you do conflict well, or just because you're inner focused you do healing well. That's just where you put your attention. I think like I have been trying to do conflict in a healthy way since I was 24. And I'm 39 right now as of this filming. And I'm still learning. Like, it's still hard for me sometimes. It's not easy. And so it's a practice. I think it's a lifelong practice. So it's not about arriving. It's about cultivating that practice. So whichever one you've been kind of ignoring or is a weaker muscle for you in terms of taking action, go to that one and watch the other change. Body or relationships. Healing, physical, or you and your body, or relationships and conflict. So I hope that makes sense. I am excited to keep thinking about this and teaching about it because I think it's really, really, really interesting to look at all the ways that they mirror each other. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share them below this video. I will come talk to you for sure. If you want my beginner's guide to fascia release, we'll have that linked below. It's a PDF download that actually has links to all of my basic techniques for head to toe fascia release. It's really awesome. People are loving it. It's just kind of a bullet point list of how to master the basics, and then links to everything that you're going to need to master those basics. So it puts everything in one place, rather than you having to like search all over my channel or my blog. So I hope you'll grab that if you haven't already. Like I said, it'll be linked below this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.